There for Care is brought to you by CareScout with the goal of sharing real-life conversations about aging care. Views expressed on this program are the speaker's own. We do not provide medical, legal, tax, financial, or other professional advice. Always talk to your own professional advisors for advice tailored to your needs. Hi, welcome to the There for Care podcast, a podcast all about the aging journey, whether you're navigating it for yourself or for someone else. I'm Amy Ryan, and today we are speaking with Jessica Guthrie for the second time. Thank you for joining us today, Jessica.
Thanks for having me.
Jessica is a speaker, social media voice, and caregiving advocate who upended her life at just 26 years old to take full-time care of her mother. And today, for our conversation, we are going to talk about your very unique hospice journey with your mother that you have navigated twice. But just before we even get into your story, can you just, for our audience, share what is hospice and what does that mean from a caregiver perspective?
Such a big opening question. Great, thanks. Well, I'm excited to be back to chat with you. So what is hospice? So hospice is under the palliative umbrella. And so when we think about hospice, the question you need to answer is, should my loved one's disease take its natural course? They could die within 6 months or less. And so hospice care is for end-of-life care. And it is truly about centering the person, leading with compassion and intentionality and putting the patient very much in the center. And you, the family, are in the driver's seat of how we make sure your person is comfortable as they are navigating whatever disease they might have. And so hospice, I know that TV and movies have made it seem like, oh my gosh, you call hospice when it's almost over and I'm giving up on my person. But I like to think of like hospice is truly the next step in ensuring your person receives dignified, honorable care as they transition.
So when you think about that care model, if you have home care, a caregiver coming into your home to help, or if you're at an assisted living community where you have, a community of caregivers, is that the same situation for hospice? Is it a nurse that hangs out? Like what does it look like?
Let's break down hospice.
Yeah.
Okay. So hospice can happen at home, and that's where many folks actually experience it, is in the home. But you could also be in a nursing home or a memory care facility and also be on hospice. There's also places, depending on where you live, like hospice houses or like hospice wards where it is dedicated to folks at end of life. But I'm going to talk specifically about hospice at home. The hospice at home experience is driven by a team of people. And so the folks on your team include your nurse, and they're like your lifeline when it comes to hospice. They're the person that comes to visit you at least once a week to check in if you have any medications, make sure you're comfortable, to notice any signs of progression, check your vitals, things like that. Your team also consists of the social worker to help you navigate any local systems, community resources. My social worker comes to read to my mom because she knows that, that would be helpful for us. You also have access to a spiritual advisor or a chaplain. You also get the CNA, the certified nurse's assistant, to come and help with bathing. Depending on your agency, depending on, resources, you could have them come anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week. I'm missing someone. You also have your nurse practitioner, which helps with recertification. So should you remain on hospice for longer than 6 months, they actually come to check to make sure, you're still progressing or declining, I should say. And then depending on your hospice agency, this is why I tell people all the time, you want to shop for hospice agencies like you would for your next primary care physician or, the next community you want to move into. It's that every agency is a little bit different. So for instance, your agency might also have a massage therapist, a music therapist. You might have an amazing volunteer department where people come to your home and spend time with you. The point that I really want to make is that it's a team. And they truly wrap their arms around you, the caregiver, and the person.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about your unique experience with hospice care and your mom?
Yeah, gosh. So my mom has been living with Alzheimer's disease diagnosed Alzheimer's disease since 2014. And she, let's go back to 2022. When the year 2022 came, my mom was still walking. She was still, able to get around her home, and then things just started to decline. And when I say decline, my mom started falling more. My mom's walking gait began to shift. I then noticed that my mother was no longer able to hold herself up, so she would like lean right in the bed, and so it was, there was a time when I was propping her up with tons of pillows. My mom then could no longer really feed herself, so I had to shift to feeding her. In addition to no longer being able to like to hold a cup of water, it's like so much changed between the month of January and March of 2022. Like all those things changed. In addition to my mom was hospitalized 3 separate times for infections, which are also common as your disease progresses when it comes to Alzheimer's disease. None of these things I knew were part of like the decline to be expecting when it comes to Alzheimer's. Like I just thought like, okay, wow, falling, let's fix that thing. Okay, she's no longer walking, let's get PT. Like I didn't know that this was part of what to expect. Anywho, I share that because such rapid decline led me to wonder like, oh my gosh, is my mom dying? If so, I'm not prepared for that. But 2, I wasn't expecting it to happen in this way, like so many physical changes. And so when I talked to my mom's primary care physician, she was like, it sounds like with the weight loss, the infections, the falling, your mom might be a good candidate for hospice. And at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, hospice. Like, I don't want to give up on my mom. Like, it, dramatic. And I can call myself dramatic, but I know for families who are navigating this and or think they are at that point, like it's a really big moment. It's a pivotal moment in your care journey. And so I was like, I don't want to give up on my mom. Like she's still here, like all the things. And so after she had said that, we went to the hospital one last time my mom had an infection. She fainted and we were then admitted. And I'll never forget being in the hospital and hearing the sounds of the machines beeping. And I was like, this is not comfortable. I was like, we are never coming back here again. In addition to like the doctor not believing me, like my mom not being comfortable, having to feed my mom, all the things. I was like, I don't want this hospital experience ever again. I want for my mom to be comfortable at home. I knew that I was like, this is actually the right moment for me to actually let hospice in, because I want for my mom to be comfortable at home. I don't want any more paramedics. I don't want any more ER visits. And I for sure don't want the sound of those beeping machines. Okay. So that all led me to call our local hospice agency. And that was May 16th, 2022. And my mom was admitted because she met all the qualifications. I'll pause here and just say that hospice and dementia don't necessarily play fair. Because when you think about other terminal illnesses, or like if someone has congestive heart failure or has like a terminal cancer diagnosis, we know what that looks like in terms of the decline and how quickly that can happen for someone. The dementia decline is kind of like a stair step, And so there's this huge dramatic moment, May 16th, 2022. We get on hospice the first time. We got the nurse, we got the CNA, we got the massage. Like it's a whole thing, And we're loving it. Like my mom looks so good. Like she's so comfortable. I feel supported. And lo and behold, who knew that we would be discharged after 10 months on hospice. So that's our first kind of pass at it. Our experience was amazing and then very rocky because I didn't know that you could be discharged or graduate from hospice. I said a lot of things there.
Yeah. So now that you've been part of the process twice, what's something maybe you wish you had known going into it? What advice would you have for somebody that is going into it the first time?
Great question. I think for families who are navigating dementia especially, but for all families, I think the first thing is make sure you have a really clear understanding of the progression of your person's disease. Like what data are you collecting? What's the story that you can tell? Because frankly, admission, yes, you need your primary care physician to say, like, we believe hospice would be great. But you, as the family, you're the one who's there. You're the one who knows all the ins and outs, what's happening at 2 a.m. What are the changes that might be big or small in your eyes? Like being able to tell the story well on the front end gives you the ability to now track decline over time. And I feel like sometimes we put our trust just in the system of, yeah, of course the nurse will look out for us. Of course, they've got good records. But what I learned in this journey, both the first time and now the second time that my mom's on hospice, is you have to be so intentional about documentation and clarity of changes, whether it's eating, sleeping, weight loss, infections, skin breakdown, whatever it might be, because they use all of those pieces of evidence, even the little stories that you don't think matter, to basically tell Medicare, like, oh yes, this person deserves to remain or should be recertified, right? And so I think the greatest lesson is take charge of your story and document every step of the way.
Yeah. Can you maybe talk a little bit? You referenced the first time she went on hospice, you had like that meltdown moment where, how do you as a caregiver sort of take care of your own mental health and keep your perspective and things like that once you get to this stage in your caregiving journey?
Oh, goodness. I think it's the how is a little bit of like, every day looks different,
Yeah.
But and it's not perfect, but I think the things that I'll say is, one is give yourself the space to crash out. Give yourself the space to like let it out, because otherwise if you just, stuff it down, so many other things happen, right? And so when you reach this point of exhaustion, frustration, sadness, right? The grief that you're holding, you actually need to let it out. That's part one. I think two is giving or making sure you have some community or person to be able to hold you in those moments, right? Whether that's venting on social media, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but it's an option. If it's therapy, right? If it's a family member, if it's a friend, whatever it might be. But like, I learned that you can't hold, especially in a pivotal moment like end of life care, that by yourself. And you need a community of people to hold that too. As my friend says, who is going to put you back together when things start to fall apart? And have you identified those folks? And if not, now's a good time to start before you even get to that point. And I think the last thing is like, there's this sense of like having grace with yourself and acknowledging that like this is difficult, right? Seeing your person, slowly slip away or, make the choice of saying no more treatments or curable things. That's hard. And you are going to go through a sense of like loss and grief. And those are not feelings that you have to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
So yeah, take it day by day. Give yourself the space, but then also like, don't forget to add in the things that also bring you a sense of relief and joy. If that's walking, if that's working out, if that's cooking a good meal, like those things don't get to go away in the midst of making hard decisions.
Yeah. When you think about your caregiving journey, you have worked with a lot of different caregivers and different agencies, and you mentioned just the difference in different hospice agency offerings and things like that. How do you know sort of what to look at, how to start your search process? How do you know when it's time to look for a new partner? Just some tips, because I think you've seen a lot.
Yeah.
So what guidance do you have on, when it's time to
move on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, great questions, or just like a good conversation, because I think that sometimes when people say like, okay, well, we're on hospice, like we're stuck here, like we can't do anything. But in the end of the day, hospice is another service like anything else in your healthcare journey. Okay. Moreover, hospice is covered through the Medicare benefit, which everybody has if you're over 65 and leveraging Medicare, right? And so the hospital, Medicare Part A, the hospital benefit is where hospice lives. Therefore, right, like you're not paying for hospice out of pocket, but it's a service being offered to you. You treat it as such. And so if you get into an agency and you realize, oh gosh, I don't like how this feels, or, I don't like how I'm being treated by the staff, or the energy when they come into my home does not feel aligned with what I want my mom or my person to experience, or even just like, I want more, I want more, you have every right within your current benefit window to say, we're going to look for a different agency and change agencies. And it's that simple, right? You also have every right to give feedback to the agency. Folks are off. I realized, I was like, hospice agencies don't always get feedback because the person dies and then the family's like, okay, it's over. But it's like, no, companies like this need the feedback to get better because there's always going to be people on hospice, you know? And so I'm also a huge advocate of maybe you don't leave, but you ask to speak to the person who's in charge and articulate your experience with clear evidence and the impact on you and your family. And I've done that, and it's been interesting to see. I got a new nurse, I got a new CNA, right? Like, people change, and, you know, the goal is to keep the family comfortable, but also to ensure that we're not treating you with any sort of like detriment or harm, you know. And you, if you're not getting that, speak up. I think the other thing that I'll say is, and I want to acknowledge this for anyone who might be working in palliative care, hospice care. I know that agencies are understaffed. I know that the days are long and they're driving from Timbuktu, you know, like it's a lot. And you see so much. But when you enter into someone's home, they don't need to know anything else about the rest of your day, because that 20-minute interaction can be the difference between making them feel good, empowered, and confident, or completely just throwing them off and just ruining their entire week. And you as the medical professional entering the home have to need to carry that with such responsibility and privilege, right? Because my greatest frustrations have come from people who have just been exhausted, nonchalant, right? Like, their schedule's overly booked and we were just put on quickly. But it's like, oh, we're humans. Don't lose the humanity in the midst of all of this.
Yeah. Thank you. Can you, just to round out, I think you've given us a ton of actionable tips and amazing perspective. Would just love to hear for a minute some of your recent moments of joy with your mom as you've, what's made you happy recently?
That's such a great question. You know, my mom is now nonverbal, fully nonverbal for the most. She doesn't actually engage in conversations. But I like to say my mom is nonverbal for everybody else. She still speaks to me. And so even this morning, I was like, how are you feeling? And I leaned in close, like, how are you feeling? And she said, I'm fine. And I was like, it was so clear as day, you know? And it's those little moments that just brighten up the entire day, right?
You're gonna get me. Yeah.
Or even, you know, sure, we were up until 4 a.m. this morning, but my mom is still eating. She is chia pudding, oatmeal, spaghetti, right? Like soup, like CG is still eating. Now, yes, is it fully pureed? Is it 4 ounces of food? Yes, all those things are true, but she's still getting through her meals. She's still hydrating. To see the fact that she still enjoys that process brings me joy, you know? Yeah. Because what I also know is that the moment that stops, I know what's next, you know? And then the last, I speak in three. So the third thing that's bringing me joy, gosh, is the fact that like my mom still kind of like laughs and smiles. Like even yesterday I was laughing at something on TV and she goes, like she was also laughing. And I was like, you're reacting to me. But it's the fact that she's still my mom and so clicked into me that she would react to. Yeah. What a privilege.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your time and your stories and your perspective with us today. You're just an incredible advocate and, you know, bringing visibility to the journey and everything that comes with it. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah. This was great.
Yeah. And that's been the There for Care podcast. Please share with your friends that are going through the aging journey, whether with themselves or someone they love. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.